How long to the Mille Miglia? 1 week. 1 week? I better put the engine back in then, hadn't I? I better get out of the engine bay, make room for the engine. So there we are. Do you reckon I'll have it ready in time? All we've got to do is put that back in there. And a few other jobs. Anyway, you better leave me to it, because I better get on with it. Otherwise, we will be staying at home. Okay, we've got a problem here. This is our new one, new release bearing. That comes with that pressed on there. That's our old one, it comes with that pressed on there. That just sits on that very little collar there. Anyway, that goes on there. And this has all this sort of lot on it as well. But this doesn't seem to have that. But, look, the ID's wrong. We can't fit that to there. Let's go and have a look on the car. It'd go on this shaft here, wouldn't it? Like that. And you can see that will slide up and down nicely. That won't go on. But also the heights are different, aren't they? But the heights of them very different. But one of the problems we've been having with this is the clutch is heavy, which is why I'm replacing it. So what I've done is I've had a look at this, where this starts. Now, with the other one, it seems to be sort of back here, operating on that bit. Sort of there, so it's already sort of over centre, you know, it's already quite a way up. So if I adjust it back so it starts there, which we've got enough adjustment on this linkage here to do that, that could happen with a taller release bearing, if you see what I mean. That could be done like that. So that looks like it could work. It's about 10mm difference between having this adjusted and not, which is obviously to do with this here, this height. And of course, where this ends is where it then pushes on the clutch to release it. Now I can't bore that out because we need 38mm in there. And that's 38, that's 34. Time I take that out, we'll have no material here, so I can't just bore it out. That ain't gonna work. Can't put that on there. Won't fit. Oh, and you're saying, why don't I just phone them up and get another one? Well, I have phoned them up. And a very nice chap said, we don't have the one you need, we've only got this one. It's a German supplier in you know, Alfa Romeo parts supplier, very, very good. OKP, yeah, brilliant setup, do some amazing stuff. But now, unfortunately, he said, no, we only have this style, we don't have that style, so we can't help, but you can return it. And I thought, what a charming man. Return the ring, he knows so much about these things. If I machine the end of this off, take that off there, then bore that out so that can be popped over there. So that will go over onto that one. Then I can fit that to it. And then I reckon it'll work. We'll gain our 10mm, because effectively it'll be like this. That'll go on there like that. So we're gaining this much here. We're gaining that, which I think will give us a, that'll work well. Because we haven't got to worry about that bit, so I won't worry about that getting too thin. There's plenty of meat on here. That's the plan. But what I might be scuppered by is how hard this is. This might be a bit tough to machine, I'm not sure. And of course we've got this ridge on here, so I've got to decide whether I make it fit on that little ridge or take that off and then make it an interference fit on this bit. I think I'm going to make it an interference fit on this whole thing. But obviously I don't want it to crush that down and then get tight on here on the shaft. But anyway, that's the plan. Can't do much about this and the wear on it, because we have to use this bit, because you need that bit to go on there, and then that holds it all in place onto the clutch fork through here. Otherwise, we will be staying at home. We won't be going to the Mille Miglia. Right, so that's the first bit. I've taken the back of that off. So that will raise that by this, which is actually 13mm, I think. Hold on, let's check. Saying it's about. Don't do about, do we? We want to know exactly. 12mm, that's 12mm. So I said 10mm would be good. We got up to 15, so I think 12's a nice little compromise. So that wants to go like that, doesn't it? That'll raise that, and that one obviously goes back on there. So that's what we'll gain, is that. I've got to make that go through there. But we've got loads of meat. We've got plenty of material. You see, look, that'll work. So I've got to take the centre of this out effectively now. And so it'll press on there, and then I might take this little step out of there, because that was just for this bearing to go on, but I don't think we need that. I think we can do it that way. So yeah, that's the next job. Take the centre of that out. Let's go and see what we can do. Okay, so the idea now is to take the centre out. Yeah, 'cause it's got to go onto here, hasn't it? Got to be able to push that onto there. So take the centre out of the boring bar and see what we got. This is going to work. So there we go. So we're going to see that's going to push in there, and it's just about an interference fit, you see. What I've got to do is this little ramp here, this little bit there. So I either take that off of here, or I just put a bit in there to allow for it. Trouble is fitting that in there. It's going to be below the jaws of the chuck, so it's going to be awkward to do that, to keep it straight. So I could put it in that way and just use the parting off bit on it. I'm inclined to leave this alone and keep that at the standard, just because I'm modifying this bit. Let's continue with this and leave this alone in case I have to reverse back to how we were, as it were, or revert. So you can see what we're trying to do. It's that, and that's got to go on there. So I've done that recess on there. So that'll push onto there like that. That'll go on there like that. And then that'll go on there like that. So effectively that's what we're trying to do, isn't it? Assemble all those together. And that'll work, I think, won't it? And that way I didn't modify that at all. So we can always revert back to, go back to standard if need be. So yeah, that goes on there, and that goes on there. Then that lot goes in there. Right, let's put it on the arbor. Goes on there like that. then that we'll use that to push it on, this nice little bit of aluminium for the bearing race. So let's get that a bit more central. Okay, and that's what we're doing. There you go. It's nice, isn't it? It's good, isn't it? Then we want to get this one on, don't we? So it probably pay to do this the other way up. So get that on the flat face there, and put that one into it that way. And we do the same with our bit of aluminium. Right, and that should true itself up. Okay, ready? You're done. What do you reckon of that? Oh, that's all right, don't you? So yeah, let's go and see what it does. We want that to go on here, don't we? It's gonna work, isn't it? Exactly what we got. Obviously I've got to put the carrier, the other sort of bit on it, but that'll do. I think that's a success. Right, so even this is needing work, so I've had to drill these out. They've obviously been modified in the past. These funny little bolts that have been cut down, they don't look deep enough, but they bottom out anyway if they're any longer, so it's a bit weird, and I've had to drill these out. So I'm just going to, you know, using the countersink, take the burrs off. So there's lots been going on with this car, but we'll get there. But you can see what I'm up against. It's the usual thing, and without a window of time, without time being on our side, you know, I've just got to get this done quick and get out to Italy. Yeah, do, wouldn't it? Well, that's sorted them out, so you can see they're going to fit through quite nicely now. But you know, we ain't got a lot in there, have we? Look, ain't a lot of thread there, is there? You know, but as I say, if we look in here, look at the bottom of the flywheel here where they go in. If I take all the washer off it and everything, so we can see how far it'll go in, so we can see if it, you know, if we can get all that thread in there. If it'll go all the way in, it'll be fine. But look, it stops there. Bottom's there, so something's going on in there. I don't know what. Now you see they sort of bottom. If you look, they bottom out, don't they? You can go all the way through. I don't know why that is. I mean, it might be this is the design. It might be this is how they are. But it does seem a bit strange they're bottoming out. It does seem to be strange that doesn't go all the way through. I'd expect them to go all the way through. But anyway, it might be part of it. It might be part of the design quirk of this. It'll be all right. How many we've got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 bolts, that much thread. I mean, that's a fair, you know, that's a fair clamping pressure, isn't it? And don't forget, you know, what everyone forgets about clutches, isn't it? It's the dowels, isn't it? Those are the dowels, and these are the dowels, and that's what's doing it. You know, it's not holding it onto the flywheel, but it's stopping it spinning, isn't it? So when that's what does the actual work, doesn't it? It's not the shear of the bolts; it's these dowels as well. This is why you've always got to have good dowels in there. You know, when you're fitting a clutch, you always want to make sure the dowels are good, in good condition. Or if you're mucking around changing a flywheel, make sure you've got the dowels in there, because that's what's doing the shear that way. And the threads are just doing the clamping pressure, aren't they, holding it on. So that'll be all right. They've got a few bolts in here, haven't they? Look at that. A bit like Maserati, isn't it? And then bolts on the flywheel. But there we are. Do you think it'll be ready in time? So there we are. So, eyeballing a clutch. You see? That's what we're doing. We look at the spigot bearing and we look at it and try and get it all lined up. Now, it's difficult because you get the light in the right place and the camera, but that's what we're trying to do. Looks a mile out there, doesn't it? But that's because I can't get the camera lit up properly. You know, I'm getting shadow. There you go, right, okay, that shows it. That looks all right, doesn't it? I reckon that lines up. But this is something weird, look at this stud. That stud's out of line, isn't it? I reckon that stud's out of line. Look, it's a problem, that. So look, we've got studs here that are broken. This one here has been broken. There's another one here has been broken. And then they put a new stud in there, which I think is out of line. A new stud there. And that's it. I think they've put new studs in because this part has broken off here. This part of the casing has been broken on the bell housing. So I think they put a new stud in there and a new one in there. And perhaps that's a new one as well. So I think they've real drilled it, but I think they drilled it off the car, you know, with the through the gearbox. I don't know what's happened, but that's out of line. That's massively out of line, which is I think why I had all that trouble getting the gearbox out. You know, I reckon they've put that. I think they've fitted that wrong. And it's not threaded in properly either, is it? I'll get hold of something and take that out and see what we got. I've done the old trick of putting a couple of nuts on back to back, but look at the angle it's at. Can you see? It's not twisting round, you know, when I undo it. Look, that's definitely out of line. Look at that. It's not bent, is it? It's straight. They've put that in at an angle. And that's why I struggled to draw this out. Do you remember? So yeah, that ain't going back in. I think this is going to be a success. So this is what it does. It has to pop on here. And then, obviously, the rod actuates it like that when you put your foot on the clutch. So that's the plan. So I think this is going to work. But I'll install it properly. Then we've got to install the clutch to the back of the engine. Then I've got to put the engine in the car. So a little way to go yet. But anyway, that I reckon will work. So I'll start setting out. I've got to put some grease on it and so on. Yeah, so that's got to have some grease in it. And these little ears have got to pop into the arm. But we'll have a look at that in detail in a minute. So we just use a bit of copper grease on this. We'll just have a bit of that in there. You have to be careful not to have too much because you don't want it getting on the actual clutch plate, but it shouldn't do from here. It should be fine. So that'll give us that, and then we want a bit on here where it runs, where the actual feet, the actual fingers of the clutch fork are going to go onto it, and then I'll try and get this actually installed and see what we got. I think that's gone in. Get a little mirror and see, but that's what it's got to do. So that gives us that puts this back. See, before it was sort of sat there, and that means it's sort of already working too hard. So this well should sit back further before it starts pushing. But what we've got to have is this not so tall that it's already pushing on the fingers and trying to release the clutch already. But I think it's going to work. I think this will be fine. Right, okay. Right, I'm going to adjust this out so we've got all the free play we can have on it, or so it's got as long as it will go. And then I'm going to try and put the pin in and see what we got. That should tell us what we're up against. I reckon that's going to work. I reckon that'll work really well, but we'll see. We'll have to see when we get the gearbox back. The engine back in, and then with the clutch fit in, and we'll see how it sort of sits. But I've got a feeling that's going to work. That pops on there. There's the pin. Pin goes through it like that. Yeah, so, and then that pretty much goes back as far as it could go. I reckon that's going to be all right. Effectively, this arm has gone all the way back, so we've got a better starting point, so we've got proper leverage, whereas before the arm was sort of already halfway through its travel, which means that you're working really hard pushing the clutch down. So by starting at a different ramp angle, a bit like a seesaw, you know, we should be starting at a better point. So by extending this part here, you know, that's effectively allowed this to go further back, and obviously adjusting the cable. I had to adjust the cable back. Now I can't alter the pedal or the quadrant. It's only this part you alter, the position of this. So that was twofold, that experiment, as you can see. It was so that we could fit this release bearing onto that carrier, but also we managed to extend it at the same time. Now, I don't know if that was the correct release bearing that was in there. It certainly wasn't in good condition. I don't know if the clutch is the issue, the actual diaphragm plate. Well, it's not a diaphragm, it's a spring-loaded plate, whether that's gone hard as well, or if it was just this ramp angle was wrong. You know, I don't know. I don't know if that was even the right release bearing that was in there. We don't know enough about it. So I think this is going to be a success, and we'll try it. But yeah, I've got to now fit the clutch to the back of the flywheel and pop it all back in. But that might be something to do tomorrow. We shall see.